So today, my little acorn crop, we're going to talk about hearses. It's getting to be HearseCon time and it's getting hotter here, so I decided I didn't want to try and film this when it was too terribly hot. We've already had some 100-degree days, so I don't really want to be out here any longer than I have to. I also am not an expert on hearses. I've only had this one for 3 years, so please take my suggestions with a grain of salt. And I may have gotten things wrong, but hopefully it will be helpful to anybody who's wanting to buy a hearse. And a lot of people think that Cadillac makes them, and actually that's not true. What happens is Cadillac sells their biggest chassis that year to a coach company, and they make the rest of it into a hearse. And this one happens to be a Buick. There are also Oldsmobile hearses. I know there's a Mustang hearse that's in production in Mexico. It doesn't matter just as long as it's a big sedan type vehicle. This one was actually a station wagon chassis. So let's talk about how they're made. So what happens is the company sells probably about this much, maybe back here, of the car. So backwards. They sell that much of the car to the coach company, and then the coach company builds the hearse out from about here back. They usually chop the body about here and extend the frame. So this door on my car is actually pretty large because they've chopped the body and extended it. So let's talk about coach companies, because Cadillac or Buick or whoever makes the chassis, and then the secondary coach company makes the rest of it. This is awesome. I have to wait for traffic. Okay, so hearse makers. Some famous hearse makers are that you're probably going to potentially be familiar with, or you'll become familiar with, is S&S, which is Sayers and Scoville, Superior, also Miller Meteor or M&M, Eureka, Federal, Crystal. There's a myriad of coach companies. This coach is actually an Eagle. And the thing to remember with hearses is it's still a car. It's still a used car, so it's somebody else's headache. It's gonna have issues unless you're gonna pay like $90,000 to buy a brand new hearse. And since you're thinking about getting one, you got to think about what you want it for. If you're a gearhead and you want to restore it, then it's probably, you can probably go out to a junkyard and find, a chassis from, in good condition from one of the, the Holy Grail hearses like the 1959, 1960s, style hearses. If you're not a gearhead and you don't know how to repair a hearse, you might have to look at a more modern one, like 80s, 90s, maybe 2000s, because you're not going to know how to fix it. The other thing could be, that you learn to fix it, which is kind of what I'm doing, is my waffle is very mechanical, so he's teaching me how to work on that. So the other thing is people just want to get one because it's cool. They think, oh man, this is the coolest car I've ever seen. I want to get one because it's cool. And then the year and the coach company is not going to be as important to you as, maybe a gearhead, and if you're holding out for the perfect hearse, a perfect 59 or 62 or whatever to show up, you're going to be waiting a long time, because those are like gold and the people who have them don't ever let go of them. So you may end up just getting your 80s, 90s, 2000s hearse, and you're going to be happy with that. I love my hearse, even though it's a 1990. It's nothing really special to anyone else, but to me it is. Now, I've been told 1,000 times from people who want to get hearses that, oh, it's going to be great for camping. Okay, well, it's not got four-wheel drive. So you're not going to be able to get it anywhere that a streetcar can't go unless you are somebody who's mechanically inclined and can make it four-wheel drive. And with this particular car, there's no emergency door popper. So if you're in the back and you get stuck back there, you have to crawl through the partition glass. There's no door handle to get out. And even on the back door. So if you get trapped in here, you're going to have to fit through this partition, which I have done, and I actually can get through the partition. 9 times out of 10, when somebody tells me that they want a hearse, they tell me then next they would rip out this floor where the casket is and make it into a limo, which I don't understand why, because you can just get a fucking station wagon and paint it black and call it a day, right? I don't know. I've seen that conversion done really well. A friend of mine in Denver's got that conversion. It's beautiful, but I've also seen it done really badly. And honestly, it is not going to increase the value of your vehicle. So where do you get one of these things? Well, the good news is nobody really wants them, so they're fairly inexpensive to get, but they are a money pit. Like I was trying to say earlier, it's a used vehicle, and it's a used vehicle that is going to break down every 3 to 6 months. And quite honestly, with my old pickup truck, I figured the Hearse would be like that. Something broke on it every month, whether, you know, it was something like a knob or the windshield wipers or, you know, things that didn't matter to the day-to-day getting from point A to point B, and right up to crap that was really important that the vehicle didn't work anymore without it. So this Hearse is decent. That being said, it's probably going to break down because I said that. It seems to break down, you know, with a large problem once a year, usually right before HearseCon. So then we have to scramble to fix the goddamn thing before I can drive out there. Where do you get a Hearse? You can stake out your local funeral homes and try to get one from there. The benefit / drawback is we're looking at a low mileage car that's well taken care of. However, I've talked to people that say, well, low mileage cars are bad, so they would prefer to get a higher mileage car. I don't know. I bought this car, it only had 32,000 miles on it. It's a 1990. I thought it was a good deal, yet crap that breaks down at 50,000 miles still breaks down at 50,000 miles or is already broken. You know, so when we got this vehicle, we replaced the water pump, the alternator, you know, your typical repair stuff when you get an older vehicle. So don't think you're going to be saved from that by getting a low mileage vehicle. If you're not able to get one from a funeral home, because a lot of times what they do is they'll buy a new one and then sell the old one, but sometimes they'll keep the old one and then it just sits around and then they sell it. So you might be able to pick up like a nice old one for an inexpensive amount from a funeral home. Another option is eBay. I've heard of people having good luck. As long as they go out and look at the Hearse, make sure, you know, if you're dealing with someone on eBay, make sure you ask for additional pictures, particularly with Eastern Hearses, because of the winter time. The salt rusts out the bottom, and you wouldn't even be able to tell because the top part looks fine, but underneath is all rotten. I'm probably going to want to try and get stuff from the west where it's dry, so New Mexico, Arizona, Las Vegas. You can also look on Craigslist. I didn't really have much luck when I was looking. If you have Facebook, get on Cadillac Hearse Fan Club. A lot of times people will post Hearses for sale there, and even if you don't have a Hearse, that is a really good resource for information. You don't even have to post anything. You can just sit there and watch the threads because the questions come around. My other suggestion would be to get involved with your local Hearse club, even just as an enthusiast. But ideally, you're going to want to get a Hearse if you're going to be in a Hearse club. So don't be a hanger-oner who just kind of is a member but doesn't have a car. But they have a good resource. I mean, a lot of times the people in the club themselves are trying to sell a car, or they know of people with cars for sale. Like, I know of a couple of people with Hearses for sale. And that's the other thing is, when I get stopped, I will tell people. If somebody's like, oh, I really love your Hearse. I want one just like it. You know what? I know of 2 Hearses just like this one for sale. And I will tell people, email addresses, phone numbers, and everything else. And, just because I want to help out my friends with Hearses and I want to help somebody get someone into the hobby. So a quick story about my Hearse. I think it was a couple weeks before I bought it. The gentleman who owned it before me parked it at a friend's house because they were going to the movies, and he rode with them to the movies, so the car was parked in front of their house. Well, apparently somebody was concerned because there is a casket in here. It's the same casket the guy had, because when I bought the car, I thought, geez, what's the first thing I'm going to do? I know, I'm going to get on eBay or Craigslist and try to find a casket. So the casket that he had is the casket that's in the car now, and apparently somebody called the police because they were afraid there was a corpse in the car. The police then contacted the guy's girlfriend for some reason because I think she was on the insurance or something. And then they called him to be like, where did you leave the car? So I think that was kind of the deciding factor, is the girlfriend had it and made him sell the car. For my stories with the car, I was walking out of work one day and I was following this group of ladies, and one of them starts walking towards the car because, I'm following them because they were parked in the same general area. And so one of them starts saying, oh my gosh, is that a Hearse? Oh my gosh, there's a casket in there. Should we call the police? Is somebody cooking away in the back there? Oh my God. And for a while I was deciding whether I was going to play this out with them and be like, yeah, you should totally call the cops. There's, that's terrible. There's probably a corpse in there rotting away, and here in the summer heat, oh my gosh. And then I decided I was tired, so I walked past the girls quietly, put the key in the door, got in, and drove away. So, and I'm sure I'm probably on fail videos when I take it through drive-through because there's a casket in the back. But her stories will be another video at a later time. But for this video, I hope you learned something. I'm going to put a link in the bottom, in the description, to a friend's article that's really, really comprehensive and well written. And the other thing I want to tell you is it's a Hearse. Say it with me. Hearse. It is not a Hearse. A Hearse, as far as I know, is a gear shifter. It's not this car. This is a Hearse or a coach. You can be safe by calling it a coach. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them. I will answer them to the best of my ability. If I don't know the answer, I probably know someone who does know the answer. With that, good night, America, wherever you are.